moving forward this week on two major legislative initiatives: infrastructure and voting rights. Bipartisan infrastructure talks continue in our Senate committees and among our members. Remember, discussions about infrastructure, both physical and human, are proceeding along two tracks. The first track is bipartisan, and I understand there's been some progress. The second track pulls in elements of President Biden's American Jobs and Families Plan and will be considered by the Senate even if it does not have bipartisan support. Today, we're going to start moving the trains down the second track. I will convene a meeting with all the members of the majority party on the Senate Budget Committee to begin the important work of producing a budget resolution for the Senate to consider. This is something we've planned for quite a while, but we're moving forward today after having individual discussions, which I have had with many members of the Budget Committee. And it's a diverse committee. Senator Sanders is the chair. Senators Warner and Kaine are on it as well. There are many items to discuss, but one subject is not up to debate. I will instruct members to ensure that any budget resolution puts the United States on track to reduce carbon pollution at a scale commensurate with the climate crisis. We need significant reductions in emissions through clean energy, electric vehicles, as well as funding to help manufacturers and farmers be part of the solution in fighting climate change. The American Families Plan, as well, is essential to the forthcoming budget resolution and must be robustly funded. The Senate will also vote on major voting rights legislation before the end of June. Yesterday, the Democratic caucus hosted a group of Democratic lawmakers from Texas who led the dramatic walkout to prevent the Texas Republican legislators from passing one of the most draconian voting laws in our country. It was a powerful meeting. We heard moving testimony from 5 different lawmakers about the vicious, nasty, even bigoted attacks against voting rights in their state. The actions taken were totally partisan, just like those in all the other legislatures. So the idea that this can have some kind of bipartisan solution befuddles me, because every action taken in the legislatures is done just with Republican state senators, Republican assembly members, with no Democratic participation or input. In fact, the Texas legislators told us they were deliberately excluded from certain meetings and conference committee meetings. Speaking for our caucus, we were all taken by the courage of the Texas legislators, their fortitude, and most importantly, by their mission to defend the right of every American to be able to access the ballot, not just in Texas, but across the country. These lawmakers in one state put everything on the line to protect voting rights in their state. The Senate should put everything on the line to protect voting rights in this country. Now, tomorrow, Senate Democrats will hold another special caucus meeting to continue discussing the best path forward to achieve voting rights legislation. AUMF. 2 days ago, the Biden administration became the first administration since the beginning of the Iraq War to support repealing the authorization for the use of military force in Iraq, passed in 2002 and now in effect for 19 years. The Iraq War has been over for nearly a decade. An authorization passed in 2002 is no longer necessary in 2021. It's been nearly 10 years since this particular authorization has been cited as a primary justification for a military operation. It no longer serves a vital purpose in our fight against violent extremists in the Middle East. So, Mr. President, I strongly and fully support repealing the 2002 authorization for the use of military force in Iraq. This is the first time I'm formally announcing my support for repeal. I want to be clear. In no way will America abandon our relationship with Iraq and its people as they rebuild their country after years of war and our shared fight against ISIS. But there are very good reasons to repeal this specific legal authority. For example, it will eliminate the danger of a future administration reaching back into the legal dustbin to use it as a justification for military adventurism. At the beginning of last year, we saw that danger become frightfully real when President Trump ordered an airstrike against an Iranian target in Iraq without transparency, without proper notification to Congress, and without a clear strategy. President Trump cited the 2002 AUMF as partial justification ex post facto, a claim that legal scholars and foreign policy experts resoundingly rejected. There is no good reason to allow this legal authority to persist in case another reckless commander-in-chief tries the same trick in the future. Tomorrow, the House of Representatives will vote on whether to formally repeal the authorization. Next week, Chairman Menendez and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee will mark up a resolution led by Senators Young and Kaine, which will repeal the Iraq War AUMF. It is my intention as Majority Leader to bring this matter to a floor vote this year, and I will discuss the precise timing with Chairman Menendez. Judicial nominees. Now, sometimes good news comes to those who wait. Other times it comes rather quickly. Earlier this year, I recommended to President Biden a prominent voting rights attorney for a key position on the federal bench in New York. Yesterday, President Biden agreed with my recommendation and announced his intention to formally nominate Myrna Perez for the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. I'm very pleased that the President has chosen her, and I'm proud to have championed her candidacy. Ms. Perez is not only an accomplished attorney who has dedicated her career to equal justice under the law, she's one of the nation's foremost experts on voting rights and elections. With a national focus on voting rights now, it is a significant step to elevate Ms. Perez to the federal bench. Beyond that important exercise, she would also be the first Latina to serve on the Second Circuit since now Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who, incidentally, I suggested that to President Obama that he put her on the Supreme Court. Ms. Perez is a perfect example of Democrats' desire to bring balance, experience, and professional and personal diversity back to the judiciary. So far this year, I have made 2 recommendations to the Second Circuit in New York. Ms. Eunice Lee, a former federal defender, and now Ms. Perez, a voting rights attorney. The cupboards of the federal judiciary have long been stocked with former prosecutors and corporate lawyers. It's about time that civil rights attorneys, voting rights attorneys, and federal defenders like these 2 outstanding nominees join the ranks. So again, I applaud President Biden's decision. It's a very bright day for the future of the federal bench in New York. I yield the floor. And note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Baldwin.